Hey everyone, and welcome back to Citywide Bytes. Now, our next guest is a debut author whose book was inspired in part by real life. Karen Uhlmann joins me. Karen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Okay, so let us talk about your recently released book, Intersections. Give us a quick walkthrough as to what this book is all about.
The book is largely about friendship. It's and fear and loss, I guess, but it's about two very unlikely people who meet because they're both obsessed with the hit and run killing of a child. One is a Chicago police officer, and one is a woman who lives in the neighborhood where the child was killed.
Oh yeah, and I read that this book also has a really interesting twist as you go along. I'm not gonna say what it is because you got
Yeah.
to read the book and find out for
Mhm.
yourself. So, was this book based a lot on real life, or did that just kind of give you the idea that kind of grew into the story?
It was an idea inspired by something that did happen over 20 years ago, actually. A little girl was hit and killed in our neighborhood. And it really was a huge ordeal for the neighborhood, even though it was Chicago. And I watched the policeman videotaping the intersection for months after that. I never talked to him, which I'm glad I didn't because I was able to conjure him myself.
Oh, okay. And I'm actually curious, did this policeman ever reach out and say, "Hey, am I the person in this book?"
He is no longer with us.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I
That's
never
sad.
met him. I just watched him.
Wow. And what about this made you think, you know what, this could be a book someday?
I didn't initially think that. But the image stayed with me. It was really his image that stayed with me, and eventually it became the novel.
Yeah. And I also read that you are a debut writer, which I love talking to first time
Hmm.
novelists. I know that you have done short stories, so you're not
Hmm.
brand new to writing, but this is your first novel. I'm curious what kind of made you just want to write a novel, making this jump from short stories to this.
I did want to do something longer, and I had this idea. It was also wonderful to take a break from rejections. You send out
Oh,
you send out short stories and you get, 10 rejections,
yep.
20 I just had a short story place this week after I don't even know how many rejections.
Oh, geez, that's heartbreaking, but that is
Yeah,
how it is, right?
yeah, it's how it is. So the novel's one big rejection, but at least it wasn't, daily and I got a break.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I also read that this came out through She Writes Press. Now we featured a lot of their
Good.
writers over the years. Great company, great people that they work with. How'd you find them, and how did it all work out?
It worked out very well. I found them through word of mouth, really,
Hmm.
uh, and sent my book in. And it's worked out beautifully. I've been really happy.
Okay. All right. Let us talk about the twist that we have in this book just a little bit. I want to give people just a little glimpse
Mhm.
here. So, as the book proceeds, we have our character who learns the identity of the killer, someone they know,
Mhm.
and they're sort of stuck in this quandary of do I turn them in, do the right thing, or do I protect this person who means so much to me? Let's talk about your main character and kind of how this decision just affects them.
Yeah, there's a lot of moral ambiguity in this book on the part of both Charlotte and the police officer. Um, Charlotte is, I'll go ahead and say that the person she's protecting is her daughter, and she's a mother. And that's a big part of the book
Hmm.
is how far you will go for your children. And in Ed's case, he doesn't learn about Charlotte's suspicions for a very long time. And I recently had somebody get angry at me that I know, saying, "Well, what was he doing? He took an oath." Um, and it's about his moral ambiguity as well and his care.
Yeah.
For Charlotte, really.
Yeah. How would you
Mhm.
say this choice kind of shapes the story, where we know who did it, and it's like, well, we should do the right thing, but
We don't know for sure, but we're pretty sure
ah,
because she can't get her daughter to admit to doing anything. Her daughter is a
oh,
mentally ill drug addict. So that's part of it. And she had just gotten out of rehab and then ends up right back in rehab. So there's a lot of denial going on Charlotte's part.
okay, okay.
Hmm.
How about the characters? How did you go about just like crafting them? What into that?
It was really fun crafting Ed. I had never written a male character. I certainly don't know the police world. And I had such a good time. I mean, I did talk to police officers. There's no way I could have written this. I didn't even know what the inside of a squad car looked like. So I had to talk to police officers. One I became friendly with. So Ed was a real joy for me. I really grew to love him. Charlotte was kind of a combination of all the women I know, and mothers everywhere, I guess. And Libby just kind of came along. So,
Wow, very
mhm,
cool. All right. How about making this jump from short stories to novels? Short stories, obviously, short and to the point. Novels,
mhm.
it's an open playground. Do whatever you want for as long as you want. What was it like getting this kind of freedom to just expand?
It was wonderful. I love short stories, of course, but having the time to really get to know characters is very special. And I started with nothing, so I really had to grow these characters, and that was so different for me.
I'll bet. I'll bet. Um, did the characters undergo a lot of changes before you said, yes, this is our final version?
They did.
I'll bet.
Yeah, they did a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I mean, did you actually drop characters because you just kind of weren't working out?
I did. I dropped Libby and put her back, the daughter.
Wow.
I know the plot
What
changed
happened? What
quite
happened
a
there
bit.
that what happened there that made you drop her?
Beta readers really hated her, to be
Oh,
honest.
really?
Um, yeah. And I ended up putting her back and making her a much large part of the novel,
Okay.
larger
Okay.
part.
So the beta say we hate her, get rid of her, and
Hmm.
you say nope, put her back. Was this just
Yes.
like you like no, this is my character, this is my like baby basically, she can't go?
Yeah, I took her voice out.
Oh,
She doesn't have her own voice. We see her through Charlotte and through Ed, the police officer. But she's a big part of the novel. And she talks, but we don't, see she has no narration of her own really. So that was a big change. That was the one compromise I did make.
yeah. That is very interesting because like you have this major character, but she's not part of the POV.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that that that's something I don't see a lot of, but I like it actually. I like it.
Thank you.
So how do you give Libya presence if she isn't, talking?
No, she is talking, but she
She is
doesn't have her
talking.
PO. Yeah, but she doesn't have her own
Gotcha.
point of view.
Okay, okay.
She is talking, and she's difficult.
Mhm.
She's difficult. She's a brat. There are a lot of things that can make people not like her.
Mm. Yeah.
So, but there are kids like that,
Yeah,
and
there are.
she does undergo a change.
Okay, all right. I want to
Mhm.
learn a little bit more about Ed, the police officer. As you mentioned, you had very little knowledge of the police world. You spoke with
Mhm.
officers, and that's wonderful. It's good to do that kind of research. Um, did Ed undergo any kind of metamorphosis as we went along in the writing process?
Yes, he did. Uh, it was another thing I took out and put back in.
You took out Ed. Wow.
No, not Ed. I took out the fact that his wife becomes a surrogate for her daughter.
What?
which
Okay.
was another big thing. And it was so I took it out and I don't have too many beta readers is another piece of advice. Because Charlotte also is pregnant by somebody other than her husband. So there are yes, so there are two pregnancies in this book. Uh, so I originally took Maggie's surrogate pregnancy, which does not succeed, by the way, out of the book, and then I put it back in.
Wow. What a roller coaster this must have been to write. It sounds like it just went all over the place.
It did. There were many, many versions of it, and I finally stuck to what you know, to my gut.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta ask, are you a planner or more of like a seat of the pants writer?
I'm a pantser.
You're a pantser. All right. Pantsers are
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
I wish I were a planner. My life would be much easier, but I'm not.
I hear that a lot, actually. A lot. I
Yeah.
hear from like a lot of parents who say, I wish I had done it online. Might have made the whole thing a lot easier. But here we are. So the
Right.
fact that you just kind of just went off and just went by the seat of your pants, did like this result in a lot of like abandoned storylines?
Yes, it did.
Oh,
Hmm.
someday you gotta like publish like the untold parts of this book, the like the alternate endings, the alternate characters.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of alternates in this
Okay.
case.
What would you say were some of the bigger storylines that got dropped, as you went on?
Really, it was those two. Well, Libby wasn't in there. So Libby
Yeah.
initially was not, the person who was a suspect in this, and pretty sure that, sure suspect. So that was a huge storyline. Also, just not having her point of view. And the other was the pregnancy. Maggie is Ed's wife, her surrogate pregnancy, because Ed was very unhappy with that. So that was a chunk of the story.
Cool. How does it feel to have it done? Your debut novel,
Mhm.
you're out there officially as a novelist. How's it feel to say, okay, out there for the world to see?
It feels both great and scary.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I will bet that May 6th, which is when this book came out, was like,
Mhm.
okay, here we go.
I know. I had a launch party about a week and a half later, but May 6th, I actually had a terrible virus and it came out. So it was probably better. Um, so it is very scary. There were some
Yeah.
pre-reviews from NetGalley. Uh,
Okay.
some of them nice, one not so nice. So you just never know. And now they've been mainly nice, but you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. I have seen a lot of the really like good reviews up on your website. So definitely a lot of like high praise from like fellow writers about this book.
Yes, which was wonderful.
Yeah. Are you the kind of person who like reads reviews and says, okay, I've got to really like take this in and use this?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I shouldn't read reviews.
they,
Um,
they do
the
say
nat
that.
Yeah, the nasty review accused me of being for the perimenopausal crowd. Which was
What
which is
does that
and
mean?
I don't know, and she compared me, it wasn't Colleen Hoover, but to one of those writers, and just yeah, which was actually not a terrible thing, but it was just kind of funny.
I'm not sure what that has to do with anything.
Oh, she hated the way I wrote the husband.
Then just say that.
Right.
Just
Uh
say that. Just say I
no,
didn't like this character.
right. So that was my one very nasty review, which was actually also kind of funny.
It sounds funny, actually.
Hmm.
It sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, Karen, now that this book is done, do you think there'll be another one?
I'm thinking about a sequel because a bunch of people have asked about that.
Oh, okay, okay. Is
Hmm.
this just like idea stage? You have some notes written out?
I have some notes, but it's the very beginning.
I get you. I get you. All right.
Hmm.
Then let us talk about lessons. So, your first book,
Hmm.
what would you say were some of the bigger lessons learned that you can apply to the next one?
Know where you're going a bit more. I actually did know the end,
Mhm.
but I didn't know a lot of it. And Although I'm not sure I'm capable of that because I listen to my characters.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
that was the biggest lesson. Also allowing yourself the time.
yeah, yeah, that's
Mhm.
definitely a big one, you know. So are you the kind of person that sets like hard deadlines, like, okay, we're done by this date?
Not anymore.
I think that's healthier. I think it's a
Yeah.
lot healthier. But I know that you also used to be, you're a former reporter too. So
Mhm.
I imagine the like the deadlines kind of like harden your skull.
Right, both for reporting and for magazine writing.
Sure.
So one of the beauties of leaving that world, which no longer exists the way it was when I was part
Hmm.
of it, is having no deadline.
Right. Yeah. But
Especially
still,
raising children. The
yeah, of
deadlines when
course,
I was raising children it
of
was not an
course.
easy thing.
Ah, all
Mhm.
right. Um, did the short story writing also help you at all in terms of like getting yourself set to do this? Like, yeah, you already had kind of like that like basic knowledge of what to do.
Yes, I mean I knew how to write, and I knew about plot to a certain extent, so that did help. Also, the journalism helped.
Yeah.
It made, I'm a typewriter. So
So
all writing helps writing,
exactly.
just as reading helps writing. The
Yep.
more you do it, the better you are.
Okay. Then let us talk about what you're reading. What are some of your favorite writers?
Oh boy.
Right.
Susan Minot,
Mm.
who actually worked with me on a couple of short stories. Sigrid Nunes, also, who was one of my teachers at Breadloaf. I love Sigrid. I loved my friend, or friend rather. Lori Moore, who hasn't written anything lately. Amy Hempel. I went to Bennington too,
Hmm.
where
Hmm.
she taught for many years. Um, I loved Alice Munro. Now I have some mixed feelings.
Oh, some great names there. I like that.
Yeah.
I like
Mhm.
that. Okay. I want to as we bring this thing to a close, I do want to ask about cover art because I dug the cover of this. It's kind of it's very like straightforward but also powerful. Was this your idea? Did someone plan it for you?
She Writes has their own staff that does this. They give you several ideas. I actually rejected all of them except for
No kidding.
one that was similar to this one. I liked one that was similar, but it just had like a white bunchy thing at the bottom. And I said, that looks like crumpled Kleenex. So, which they appreciated,
Right.
because I said it really needs to look like flowers. So,
Yeah, of course.
so it was a combination
Yeah.
but they were excellent. They were great about the cover.
I also like that you were like standing your ground saying, no, no, I don't like it. What else can we do? I like that.
And they're open to that.
That's good.
I
That's really,
didn't I
really good.
didn't offend anybody. So,
Okay. All right, Karen. Well, we are coming down to the end of this conversation, and I'll leave this with the same question that we ask all our guests. What's next for you?
well, I do have a short story collection I'm trying to get out there. And
Oh,
then a sequel to this, I think.
oh, I like that. I like that. All right. Well, folks, you've heard the whole story here. Now you need to check it all out. Go to KarenUhlmann.com. Karen, as you spell it, UHLMANN.com. Everything's there. Get your copy of Intersections. Check out the short stories and drop a review. We do like reviews. Just
Love reviews.
exactly, exactly. And Karen, thank you once again for joining us. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And to the listeners at home, thank you as always for checking the show out. We'll see you all next time.